Okay, how's it going, everybody? We're going to read some more of On Guerrilla Warfare by Mao Zedong. This is Organization for Guerrilla Warfare. Number 5 here, chapter 5. So I think this is a kind of a longer chapter. And yeah, we'll go ahead and get into this. Let's go ahead. 4 points must be considered under this subject. These are: 1. How are guerrilla bands formed? 2. How are guerrilla bands organized? 3. What are the methods of arming guerrilla bands? 4. What elements constitute a guerrilla band? These are all questions pertaining to the organization of armed guerrilla units. They are questions which those who have had no experience in guerrilla hostilities do not understand, and on which they can arrive at no sound decisions. Indeed, they would not know in what manner to begin. How guerrilla units are originally formed. This is the first section. The unit may originate in any one of the following ways. A, from the masses of the people. B, from regular army units temporarily detailed for the purpose. C, from regular army units permanently detailed. D, from the combination of a regular army unit and a unit recruited from the people. E, from the local militia. F, from deserters from the ranks of the enemy. G, from former bandits and bandit groups. In the present hostilities, no doubt, all these sources will be employed. In the first case above, the guerrilla unit is formed from the people. This is the fundamental type. Upon the arrival of the enemy army to oppress and slaughter the people, their leaders call upon them to resist. They assemble the most valorous elements, arm them with old rifles or bird guns, and thus a guerrilla unit begins. Orders have already been issued throughout the nation that call upon the people to form guerrilla units both for local defense and for other combat. If the local governments approve and aid such movements, they cannot fail to prosper. In some places where the local government is not determined or where its officers have all fled, the leaders among the masses, relying on the sympathy of the people under their sincere desire to resist Japan and secure the country, call upon the people to resist, and they respond. Thus, many guerrilla units are organized in circumstances of this kind. The duties of leadership usually fall upon the shoulders of young students, teachers, professors, other educators, local soldiery, professional men, artisans, and those without a fixed profession who are willing to exert themselves to the last drop of their blood. Recently, in Shanxi, Hope, Chahar, Suiyan, Shantung, Chekyang, Anhui, Jiangsu, and other provinces, extensive guerrilla hostilities have broken out. All these are organized and led by patriots. The amount of such activity is the best proof of the foregoing statement. The more such bands there are, the better will the situation be. Each district, each county, should be able to organize a great number of guerrilla squads, which when assembled from a guerrilla company. There are those who say, I am a farmer, or I am a student. I can discuss literature, but not military arts. This is incorrect. There is no profound difference between the farmer and the soldier. You must have courage. You simply leave your farms and become soldiers. That you are farmers is of no difference, and if you have education, that is so much the better. When you take your arms in hand, you become soldiers. When you are organized, you become military units. Guerrilla hostilities are the University of War. And after you have fought several times valiantly and aggressively, you may become a leader of troops. And there will be many well-known regular soldiers who will not be your peers. Without question, the fountainhead of guerrilla warfare is in the masses of the people, who organize guerrilla units directly from themselves. The second type of guerrilla unit is that which is organized from small units of the regular forces, temporarily detached for the purpose. For example, since hostilities commenced, many groups have been temporarily detached from armies. Divisions and brigades have been assigned guerrilla duties. A regiment of the regular army may, if circumstances warrant, be dispersed into groups for the purpose of carrying on guerrilla operations. As an example of this, there is an 8th Route Army in North China, excluding the periods when it carries on mobile operations as an army. It is divided into its elements, and these carry on guerrilla hostilities. This type of guerrilla unit is essential for 2 reasons. First, in mobile warfare situations, the coordination of guerrilla activities with regular operations is necessary. Second, until guerrilla hostilities can be developed on a grand scale, there is no one to carry out guerrilla missions but regulars. Historical experience shows us that regular army units are not able to undergo the hardships of guerrilla campaigning over long periods. The leaders of regular units engaged in guerrilla operations must be extremely adaptable. They must study the methods of guerrilla war. They must understand that initiative, discipline, and the employment of stratagems are all of the utmost importance. As the guerrilla status of regular units is but temporary, their leaders must lend all possible support to the organization of guerrilla units from among the people. These units must be so disciplined that they hold together after the departure of the regulars. The third type of unit consists of a detachment of regulars who are permanently assigned guerrilla duties. This type of small detachment does not have to be prepared to rejoin the regular forces. Its post is somewhere in the rear of the enemy, and there it becomes the backbone of guerrilla organization. As an example of this type of organization, we may take the Wu Taishan district in the heart of the Hope Chahar Shanxi area. Along the borders of these provinces, units from the 8th Route Army have established a framework for guerrilla operations. Around these small corps, many detachments have been organized, and the area of guerrilla activity greatly expanded. In areas in which there is a possibility of cutting the enemy's lines of supply, this system should be used. Severing enemies' several supply routes destroys his lifeline, and this is one feature that cannot be neglected. If at the time the regular forces withdraw from a certain area, some units are left behind, these should conduct guerrilla operation in the enemy's rear. As an example of this, we have the guerrilla bands now continuing their independent operations in the Shanghai Wusong area in spite of the withdrawal of regular forces. The fourth type of organization is the result of a merger between small regular detachments and local guerrilla units. The regular forces may dispatch a squad, a platoon, or a company, which is placed at the disposal of the local guerrilla commander. If a small group experienced in military and political affairs is sent, it becomes the core of the local guerrilla unit. These several methods are all excellent, and if properly applied, the intensity of guerrilla warfare can be extended. In the Wu Taishan area, each of these methods has been used. The fifth type mentioned above is formed from the local militia, from police and home guards in every North China province. There are now many of these groups, and they should be formed in every locality. The government has issued a mandate to the effect that the people are not to depart from war areas. The officer in command of the county, the commander of the Peace Preservation Unit, the chief of police, are all required to obey this mandate. They cannot retreat with their forces, but must remain at their stations and resist. The sixth type of unit is that organized from troops that come over from the enemy, the Chinese traitor troops, employed by the Japanese. It is always possible to produce disaffection in their ranks. We must increase our propaganda efforts and foment mutinies among such troops. Immediately after mutinying, they must be received into our ranks and organized. The concord of the leaders and the assent of the men must be gained and the units rebuilt politically and reorganized militarily. Once this has been accomplished, they become successful guerrilla units. In regard to this type of unit, it may be said that political work among them is of the utmost importance. The seventh type of guerrilla organization is that formed from bands of bandits and brigands. This, although difficult, must be carried out with utmost vigor, lest the enemy use such bands to his own advantage. Many bandit groups pose as anti-Japanese guerrillas, and it is only necessary to correct their political beliefs to convert them. In spite of inescapable differences in the fundamental types of guerrilla bands, it is possible to unite them to form a vast sea of guerrillas. The ancients said, Taishan is a great mountain because it does not scorn the merest handful of dirt. The rivers and seas are deep because they absorb the waters of small streams. Attention paid to the enlistment and organization of guerrillas of every type and from every source will increase the potentialities of guerrilla action in the anti-Japanese war. This is something that patriots will not neglect. Okay, so this next one is called the method of organizing guerrilla regimes. This is going to be important. Okay, let's get into this. The method of organizing guerrilla regimes. Many of those who decide to participate in guerrilla activities do not know the methods of organization. For such people, as well as for students who have no knowledge of military affairs, the matter of organization is a problem that requires solution. Even among those who have military knowledge, there are some who know nothing of guerrilla regimes, because they are lacking in that particular type of experience. The subject of the organization of such regimes is not confined to the organization of specific units, but includes all guerrilla activities within the area where the regime functions. As an example of such organization, we may take a geographical area in the enemy's rear. This area may comprise many counties. It must be subdivided in individual companies or battalions formed to accord with the subdivisions. To this military area, a military commander and political commissioners are appointed. Under these, the necessary officers, both military and political, are appointed in the military headquarters. There will be the staff, the aides, the supply officers, and the medical personnel. These are controlled by the chief of staff, who acts in accordance with orders from the commander. In the political headquarters, there are bureaus of propaganda, organization, people's mass movements, and miscellaneous affairs. Control of these is vested in the political chairman. The military areas are subdivided into smaller districts, in accordance with local geography, the enemy situation locally, and the state of guerrilla development. Each of these smaller divisions within the area is a district, each of which may consist of from 2 or 6 counties. To each district, a military commander and several political commissioners are appointed. Under their direction, military and political headquarters are organized. Tasks are assigned in accordance with the number of guerrilla troops available. Although the names of the officers in the, quote, district correspond to those in the larger, quote, area, the number of functionaries assigned in the former case should be reduced to the least possible, in order to unify control to handle guerrilla troops that come from different sources and to harmonize military operations and local political affairs. A committee of from 7 to 9 members should be organized in each area and district. This committee, the members of which are selected by the troops and the local political officers, should function as a forum for the discussion of both military and political matters. All the people in an area should arm themselves and be organized into 2 groups. One of these groups is a combat group, the other a self-defense unit, but limited military quality. Regular combatant guerrillas are organized into 1 of 3 general types of unit. The first of these is a small unit, the platoon or company. In each county, 3 to 6 units may be organized. The second type is the battalion of from 2 to 4 companies. 1 such unit should be organized in each county. While the unit fundamentally belongs to the county in which it was organized, it may operate in other counties. While in areas other than its own, it must operate in conjunction with local units in order to take advantage of their manpower, their knowledge of local terrain and local customs, and their information of the enemy. The third type is the guerrilla regiment, which consists of from 2 to 4 of the above-mentioned battalion units. If sufficient manpower is available, a guerrilla brigade of from 2 to 4 regiments may be formed. Each of the units has its own peculiarities of organization. A squad, the smallest unit, has a strength of from 9 to 11 men, including the leader and the assistant leader. Its arms may be from 2 to 5 Western-style rifles, with the remaining men armed with rifles of local manufacture, bird guns, spears, or big swords. 2 to 4 such squads form a platoon. This too has a leader and an assistant leader, and when acting independently, it is assigned a political officer to carry on political propaganda work. The platoon may have about 10 rifles, with the remainder of its weapons being bird guns, lances, and big swords. 2 to 4 of such units form a company, which, like the platoon, has a leader, an assistant leader, and a political officer. All these units are under the direct supervision of the military commanders of the areas in which they operate. The battalion unit must be more thoroughly organized and better equipped than the smaller units. Its discipline and its personnel should be superior. If a battalion is formed from company units, it should not deprive subordinate units entirely of their manpower and their arms. If, in a smaller area, there is a peace preservation corps, a branch of the militia or police, regular guerrilla units should not be dispersed over it. The guerrilla unit next in size to the battalion is the regiment. This must be under more severe discipline than the battalion. In an independent guerrilla regiment, there may be 10 men per squad, 3 squads per platoon, 3 platoons per company, 3 companies per battalion, and 3 battalions to the regiment. 2 of such regiments form a brigade. Each of these units has a commander, a vice commander, and a political officer. In North China, guerrilla cavalry units should be established. These may be regiments or from 2 to 4 companies or battalions. All these units, from the lowest to the highest, are combatant guerrilla units and receive their supplies from the central government. Details of their organization are shown in the tables. All the people of both sexes from the ages of 16 to 45 must be organized into anti-Japanese self-defense units, the basis of which is voluntary service. As a first step, they must procure arms. Then they must be given both military and political training. Their responsibilities are local sentry duties, securing information of the enemy, arresting traitors, preventing the dissemination of enemy propaganda. When the enemy launches a guerrilla suppression drive, these units, armed with what weapons there are assigned to certain areas to deceive, hinder, and harass them. Thus, the self-defense units assist the combatant guerrillas. They have other functions. They furnish stretcher bearers to transport the wounded, carriers to take food to the troops, and comfort missions to provide the troops with tea and rice. If a locality can organize such a self-defense unit as we have described, the traitors cannot hide, nor can bandits and robbers disturb the peace of the people. Thus, the people will continue to assist the guerrillas and supply manpower to our regular armies. The organization of self-defense units is a transitional step in the development of universal conscription. Such units are reservoirs of manpower for the orthodox forces. There have been such organizations for some time in Shanxi, Shinxi, Honan, Suiyuan. The youth organizations in different provinces were formed for the purpose of educating the young. They have been of some help. However, they were not voluntary, and the confidence of the people was thus not gained. These organizations were not widespread, and their effect was almost negligible. The system was, therefore, supplanted by the new type organizations, which are organized on the principles of voluntary cooperation and non-separation of the members from their native localities. When the members of these organizations are in their native towns, they support themselves. Only in case of military necessity are they ordered to remote places, and when this is done, the government must support them. Each member of these groups must have a weapon, even if the weapon is only a knife, a pistol, a lance, or a spear. In all places where the enemy operates, these self-defense units should organize within themselves a small guerrilla group of perhaps from 3 to 10 men armed with pistols or revolvers. This group is not required to leave its native locality. The organization of these self-defense units is mentioned in this book because such units are useful for the purpose of inculcating the people with military and political knowledge, keeping order in the rear, and replenishing the ranks of the regulars. These groups should be organized not only in the active war zones, but in every province in China. The people must be inspired to cooperate voluntarily. We must not force them, for if we do, it will be ineffectual. This is extremely important. The organization of a self-defense army, similar to that we have mentioned and shown in Table 5. In order to control anti-Japanese military organization as a whole, it is necessary to establish a system of military areas and districts along the lines we have indicated. The organization of such areas and districts is shown in Table 6. Okay, so I'm going to, this is kind of a long chapter. I think I read 2 different sections here, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not. But, no, I think that might have been all the same one. So that was, no, that was 2 different ones. So this is going to be equipment of guerrillas next, but we'll go ahead and hold off on this for a second and do this in another take. Thank y'all for tuning in. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Tumblr, Medium. All of these are Marxist. Hit me up there. Y'all have a great day. Dodada Goi.